in the continuing saga to kind of create this pickup module for the robot, I'm going to show how we can use a software called GIM. It is an analysis software for linkages. I'd say 4-bar linkages, but you can do all sorts of linkages. And it's free, it's easy to install, and it's pretty easy to set up. So you can get this software by going to, what does it say here? Go to the website, the CompMech website, www.ehu.es, CompMech software. I'm sure if you search CompMech and GIM, G-I-M, you'll be able to get it. As I remember, I requested the software and I needed to put in an email. I needed to verify my email, and then they sent me a link, and I downloaded the software. So it's a very nice tool, and of course, we all love free. So this software helps you design mechanisms. In the previous video, we designed in the CAD the initial points. And what I did is I took a picture of that geometry. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up that picture. So here's the initial picture. Again, we have the rail from the outside of the chassis. We have the bumper. We have our coral piece. And here's the points for the linkages that we set up. This is the positioning of the linkages as, you know, it would be loaded into the robot, and these are the positions as it comes down and grabs the coral. I'm going to use this set of points. And the first thing we need to do is we need to set up, scale this image. So right now, I went into background image. I opened up, you know, this graphic, and to scale it, you're either going to scale the width or the height. And then this is a nice little feature. This is the distance, right? So we're going to set the distance. And sometimes this takes me a couple of tries, but since it's in the beginning, it's pretty easy to just start over. So I'm going to set the width to 5, and then zoom out. I can just scroll with the flywheel, and then I can kind of position with the middle mouse button. And here, I think I'll set the axis and grid. So the axis range, since this is 7, I'm going to make the axis range 10, and I'm just going to hit return. And then I'm going to reposition with the middle mouse button by dragging. And you can see here, as I scroll in, my distance is 1. And I'm going to take these little balls and I am going to place them on these points here. And you can see it says the distance is 1.17. If I zoom in, I want to get really careful. You know, I can adjust these exactly, but it really, the distance doesn't matter too much. It's kind of all relative. We're not going to be able to get exact points out of this anyways. So now I have a distance of this. I can come in here and change the distance to 7. And there we go. Now the distance is 7, so it's scaled it properly. And you can kind of see this here. We're at 0. We can go to 7 here, and you know that's approximately good, right? So now this image is scaled properly to the geometry of the software. From this, we're going to set up the links, and then we're going to animate this. And you do that through the modules here at the top. You know, you can kind of go through yourselves what a lot of these means, but this is new. You know, it's kind of like a new plane, you know, if you're starting over. So if I had screwed up this scaling, I would just do new planar. It would say save this. I'd say no, and I'd try again. You could open an existing project and you can save a project. Fit, you know, I'm not sure what new spatial means. Open library, there's a bunch of different kinematic entities, and you can just modify them to your geometry. That's very interesting. So if people are interested, I would suggest you go in there. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to start over, but maybe I'll create a short video on showing that. Okay, so here I have the geometry. The kinematics will, after I set up the geometry, then we'll go into the kinematics, and that's basically putting movement in. Then you have dynamics to get some acceleration and that sort of thing. We'll probably do that in Inventor. And synthesis is a very interesting one. In the way we set up these initial points by saying we wanted, you know, the platform to be vertical here and the platform to be horizontal here. Synthesis is a way to kind of do that in this software. I haven't had a lot of luck with it, but it's interesting, and again, maybe I'll show a small video of that. But right now we'll stick with geometry and go from there. So here we're going to add some points. And I'll use the points on this side, right? So I'm going to create a point here. I'm going to create a point here, a point here, a point here, and then lastly that point. So I've got my points for my geometry, and now I go and I want to create a new element. So I'm going to click on this point and this point, and if I want to end creating that element, I click again. So that element's created. Click on this point, click on that point, click again, elements created. Now I need to create this frame here, And you'll see when I do this that all these merge together, which isn't a problem because you'll just define some revolute joints. But first time I did it, it kind of threw me for a loop there. So I've created my frame. It's attached everything together. I click again, and it created the element, and you notice it merged everything together like I said it would. And now I can break those up by putting in some revolute joints. So it has a bunch of different joints. I'm going to use the revolute joint here. See how it broke it up here. See how it broke it up. And then I'm also going to use it here to create two fixed revolute joints. Now, if I wanted one to be rolling, I could go here and click on fixed joint and click here, and it makes that kind of like a, I could move it to roll, sliding joint. But if I click it again, it'll toggle it back to fix. And this is a way, sometimes if you get into it, you can get a fix. You can have a rolling joint. You can fix it, right? So that's it. I finished my geometry. I have 2 links, and I have a platform. And now we're going to go into kinematics. So when you go into the kinematics module, the menus change a bit. So here, instead of defining revolute joints, it's actually defining absolute rotation or relative rotation. So I could kind of set up relative rotation between these 2 frames, but I'm just going to do absolute rotation. So I click on that. I click on an element. So you can see that it kind of knows which, the 2 that are eligible. And you can see I have 1 degree of freedom, I have 0 redundancies, and I have 8 kinematic equations. So I click on that, and it gives me a menu about what the actuator it's set up here. And to tell the truth, this is the biggest part I have problems with, is figuring out these different options for defining the actuator. So right now, it's a controlled motion. I've tried single position analysis and automatic motion. And it gets a bit confusing. But what you'll also know is it says there's a singularity reached. Okay, so it found an initial problem, and I can just really run it. And so it's kind of saying, hey, I reached a problem here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this increment, and I'm going to make it minus 360 and hit return. And you'll see that the graphics around this actuator changed. And basically what I think it's saying is the dark is the initial position of this actuator, and then the light bar is kind of what motion you're going to go through. So if I hit run now, you can see that it runs through the simulation. And what's nice now, you can kind of go through and see what motion you've gotten. And the first thing you'll notice is that we didn't get the motion we expected, right? We designed this 4-bar linkage to be horizontal. And when you run it and look at the end, well, we're not horizontal. And that's because this set of equations actually has two solutions. And these solution sets don't correspond to each other. If you imagine that this point could be here, it could also be up here. And when it's up here, this platform would be horizontal. But this solution set and this solution set don't match up. And, you know, that's kind of the luck of the draw, I guess. So we're going to have to make some modifications to these points to get them to work out. And we can do that by going here to the edit entity. And if you hover over it, you can see that it says click on an actuator to modify it, or click on a point to change its position. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to start changing some positions. So you'll also notice that these paths, these blue lines show paths, right? So as we change things, we'll see the paths move, and it'll give us an idea of what is going on. So I'll go into edit, and you can see it changes it back to the front. I'm going to go over here, and it gives you some toggles for the X and the Y. And you notice as I toggle this in, it kind of shows you the path, right? And we want the path to be, you know, more outside, right? So as I start modifying points, you can kind of see what's going on. And probably right now, I'm thinking to myself, I need these arms to be longer. I need this to get out to here. I need, you know, this structure to actually go in more. And since I have flexibility about where I place this coral in the robot, I'm going to move these points out. So I'm going to move this out, go over here, move this out, go here, move this here, and move this out also. And you can kind of, again, see these paths, right, change. And, you know, you can kind of track which ones are which, but right now I'm just happy that these arcs are going farther out. I'll come over here and I'll bring this towards there. And if I run this, I can see that, yeah, it's behaving more kind of the way I would like it to behave. I'm going to click on the actuator to bring up the actuator itself. and see if I can maybe increase this to 370. Sometimes it doesn't let me do that. And I'll play with sometimes the positioning. So let's run it again. So it looks like it's stopped. Right, it wanted to go farther, but I think there is a singularity reached, and it's stopped here. So by changing some of the points, we can help that along, right? So here, if I click on this, you can see these points kind of moving. And you can just kind of go along. If you kind of move this in, you can see that it's going farther. Now, here, if I run it, so now it can actually travel all along. At a certain point, it binds up, right? So if we kind of bring that, you can see these curves getting smaller as I kind of move this in. And I don't care if it binds up, you know, as it gets down here, because I'm never going to bring it down here. So if I look now and run it, okay, it's way beyond, it's bound up way beyond where I care, right? And if I back up a little bit, maybe I would want my arms to be here. And I'm going to change these points. I'm going to move these down. Actually, I might back it up a little bit more to here. And I can actually change my platform to be, you know, let's say move this point over to here, move this point down here, and that will give me a horizontal platform to grab this. And then we'll see what that looks like over here. Now, what I've done before is gone back into geometry, and this will kind of, I could modify it. If I go back into geometry, it will ask me to save it, and I'll say yes, or say no, but the points will stay the same, and this will be the initial position then. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to kind of try and modify these points here. So if I look at, you know, what these points here are, this point will be right, this point here, and I'm going to kind of move it back up here. And then this point, I'm going to move way down, right? So this point is going to go over here. So we'll just edit points. So let's edit this point. Oh, it does let me do it. I was thinking I'd have to go back. So I'm going to move this down. excuse me. And this doesn't affect any of the kinematics, right? It's just a frame. Go back over here. Maybe move that like that. Now if I run this, run it again. So I'm going to bring this all the way to the initial position. Zoom out. And what, I'll move over here. This is the platform, and it's probably not something I feel like I can grab. I want it to be more vertical. So let's run it again, back up a little. Right, and I could then move these points, and this will move these back. Let's see what it looks like. If I grab this point down, move it up, move it over, grab this point, move it down. There. Run it. Bring it back to the original. And it's more vertical now. So, you know, this is possibly a solution where, you know, the claw, when I run it over here, right, it swings down on the coral, and then I will bring it back up here, and it's in a position where, and especially we could go a little bit further, right? I could swing it down more into the structure, and it would be able to be picked up fairly readily, using maybe a wheel to you know, push out the coral. That's not designed yet, but you know, in my kind of imagination, it seems fairly readily doable, right? So this is an acceptable solution, I guess I'll say. Obviously, people could come up with better ones. There's not one solution for this design. And with more playing around, it'll, you know, work out. So what I'm going to do here is, there's not really a way to save this geometry, but you can take a picture. I think this one is to use a scale must be set the Windows scale. I don't know what that means. But I know this is 7 here, and I can just go in here and snip, and so new, and grab from here to here, right? And now I have a picture where I have a grid. I know that this is 7, right? So I can go into CAD and reset these points and create a couple of assemblies from this. And then if we create these links with some variables, we can do further manipulation, right, in Inventor. I'll probably just off video fool around a bit more with these and maybe get something better. But this kind of shows you how it can be done.